All right, another Patreon request here, a double feature that are themed as usual. First up, we've got a fairy tale turned horror film, as is the next one, but you'll see what that is later. But yeah, let's talk about Snow White, A Tale of Terror. Um, so, yeah, in the 90s, there was a sort of like what's going on right now. There was just a surge of these kids' tales turned horror. And you had like stuff like Rumpelstiltskin from 1995. You had, oh, I actually own this. It's up on my wall somewhere. Um, Pinocchio's Revenge in 96. You have Snow White, A Tale of Terror in 97. You also got something like Dead Time Stories, which had, I think this had Little Red Riding Hood, as well as, what was the other one that was on here? Goldilocks and the Three Bears. Yeah. So, this right now with the Winnie the Pooh and Bambi the Reckoning and all these, Popeye and Mickey Mouse and all the things right now, this is not the first time, as is usually the case with these trends. There always seems to be kind of a cycle to things, and we're just back in that cycle of where we were in the 90s, where they were making a bunch of these kids movies into, or kids stories into horror movies. So Snow White, A Tale of Terror is a movie that I've always seen the cover to. I'm pretty sure I saw it back in the 90s, like 97 when it came out, but I can't remember for sure if I watched it or not. So this could be a first time watch. Maybe. I feel like this is something I would have watched. This also came out 1 year before Ever After with Drew Barrymore. And as some of you know, I was an obsessive Drew Barrymore fanatic at the time. So there was like a Cinderella story with Drew Barrymore, and that was not horror. But then right before that was more in my wheelhouse of a Sigourney Weaver led horror flick take on Snow White. Um, so yeah, anyway, let's see. Now there is another Snow White movie currently coming out in the next like week or two. The Death of Snow White is what I think it's called. And whether or not I cover that on the channel, I don't know. We'll see. But for right now, let's talk about this film. All right. So the main girl in this is actually the main girl from Freddy vs. Jason. So she's quite a bit younger here. Not, I guess, a ton younger, but she's only 16 years old in this movie. I saw that in the trivia and was like, oh, whoa, she's real young. And this actually starts with the Grimm Brothers. That's the title, the Grimm Brothers Snow White, A Tale of Terror. But on the cover, it's just, Snow White. And speaking of uh, the Brothers Grimm, or the Grimm Brothers, there was a movie called The Brothers Grimm, and the brother of Sigourney Weaver's character in this that betrays her and she has to kill is not only the friendly cop in Hostel, but he is also in the movies the Brothers Grimm. So I thought that was kind of a little bit of a cool connection there. And so you've got Sam Neill in this as well as Sigourney Weaver, as I already pointed out. The movie opens up with some people being attacked, and they're like wolves. And man, I always hate to see when horses are like thrown down and rolled down hills, and they're being, horses have to do these stunts that can really injure them, because if a horse breaks their leg, mostly they just end up killing them, which I don't know. I think I've talked about this before on the channel. Like, I don't really understand that. I guess it's like they they just can't fucking seem to recover from a broken leg. So it's like if you break your leg, you're finished. Which is crazy to me. That just seems like a bad design of horses. They're just too fucking big and their legs are so small. I don't know. But regardless, I hate to see them putting horses in danger like this just for a scene when, no matter how much you train them, they could hurt themselves. And if they break their leg, they die, right? Like that's typically what happens. So it just seems like a massive risk to have them like on hills, flipping backwards and stuff. Like how easily could they break their legs? So I know typically they have to go to other countries to do this. I know with like Luc Besson's The Messenger, I remember them, saying that they couldn't get approval for like horse stunts. I could be completely misremembering this. So they had to like fly out of country or whatever, and there's like don't have animal laws in these other countries, which is really fucked up. Like if you can't get something done in this country because you're putting animals' lives in danger and people decide like I'm going to follow this film production as it tries to fly somewhere else to get the approval on the potential like harm and danger to animals, I'm the fuck off the set. Like no way am I doing that movie. I don't care what the outcome is. It's not worth the injury of animals just to film a fucking movie. It just isn't to me. So really, yeah, so it's always crazy to see these big horse stunts that the horses definitely did not sign up for. Call me a bleeding heart, whatever. And then, yeah, I mean, much like the horses with their legs, his wife gets injured, and it's like, you can't call 911. You can't, even if there was a doctor around at this time, she's fucked. And, back then, you get hurt, you really hurt, you're just screwed. There just is nothing to do except for die. And she's pregnant. So he has to cut the baby out of her. Mother's love saved the child. The amount of movies I've seen like this where the mom's just like, cut me open, take the baby out, that has got to be just brutal. So I don't know. I feel like I would want you. The baby wouldn't die instantly, so I would feel like just stab me through the heart or something really quick and then take the baby out, because sitting through that pain as they're cutting the baby out would just be brutal, and they're just bleeding to death just feels like unnecessary. Unless I'm completely crazy, but no, people have died and then they cut the babies out after the mom's dead, so the baby doesn't die the second. It's just obviously stuff is not going to the baby anymore, and they can die and very quickly after the mom is dead. Anyway, all right, so then we jump ahead. We meet his new bride to be, Sigourney Weaver. She comes in the house, very similar to a Cinderella story here. She's getting married, or he's getting married to her. Then they do this thing, which is actually a custom in a lot of different religious beliefs and even, secular beliefs, or non-beliefs, where they're in bed together and they're like blessing them in bed. They're like sitting there under the covers, either naked or like basically ready for sex. Their kid is even in the room, like his kid, his younger kid at this point is in the room to like bless them. She ends up throwing wine on her because she doesn't like her or whatever, but this is such a bizarre practice. Imagine the like wedding night where you're supposed to have sex, consummate the marriage, and everyone's standing around the bed and like blessing you before you go to town. It's wild. It's just so bizarre, but different times. And let's see. The older lady who chases after her looks in the mirror and it ends up killing her. Overall, I like this. I thought this was quite cool. There's a lot of things I like about it. I don't think it's fully thought through. I don't think that there's enough development of certain characters and certain moments, and it doesn't feel like everything is completely fleshed out and realized. But that being said, I still think it's a pretty cool flick. So I'm very glad that I got to either watch this for the first time or revisit it, whatever it was. I am glad that this one got requested, because Kaylee and I, we did a video where we were doing stuff like this, and we skipped this one. This was on that list when we were doing a mystery marathon, which we actually haven't done a mystery marathon in a while, mostly because no one fucking watches them. And it's a lot of fucking work. We watch like 5 to 7 films, and then we sit there for like an hour or two, and then they get like no views, and it's like, God, such a bummer. Like, we try so many different things, and people just, it is what it is. All right, not here to bitch. Anyway, moving on. So then we jump ahead even more time, and now she's like, in this time, she's like an adult woman. She's about to be married off to whoever, potentially. And she's talking to her guy, and the mom, Sigourney Weaver, comes out, and she looks at her, and she's like in this completely covered dress, this and that. And she's like, this dress isn't appropriate for this conversation, like with a boy. Compared to modern times, it's just wild to see. It's like, you need a chaperone, you need a specific outfit, you need to be. It's wild. It's wild. I was looking at the dress like, oh my God, if she saw the dresses that kids wear today, women wear today, oh boy, this is like the least revealing dress you could possibly imagine. And she's like, you harlot, how could dare you wear that around a boy? It was pretty funny. And then, yeah, so she sicks the brother on him. And, oh wait, I'm sorry. Before that, this is what ends up happening. She ends up having a stillborn baby, which then rids her of her chance of ever conceiving again, which drives her mad. And then she blames Snow White or Liliana, and she sends her, not mute, because he screams in this, and mute people can't scream. So her brother, who chooses not to talk, I guess, after her, he knocks her down in a like little chasm of sorts, and then he goes and kills a pig, butchers a pig. That's part of the classic story. Brings her the heart to prove that Snow White is dead, and she believes him for a very short amount of time. She picks up on it pretty quick, and then she's like a straight up witch. She like gets in his mind and calls him a traitor a few times, and that alone gets him to. What ends up happening? He ends up killing himself. Yeah, he kills himself. That's crazy. She's like, traitor, and then he just like kills himself. Like, wow, that was easy. But then she ends up giving him like a kiss on the lips a few times, which like really gets him excited and whatnot. It seems to be the reward for it. So there's something incestuous going on with her brother, but yeah, that's not too unexpected. That didn't surprise me actually much at all. So then Snow White's out in the woods, or Liliana, and she runs into this house. And this is where the story really does take a pretty good turn, which I quite liked. So she's in there, she's eating stuff, she's very like Goldilocks, and they come home and find her, and it's like 7 men. One of them is a dwarf, but the other 6 are not. A couple of them have like burns on their faces or scars across their face or whatever. And one of them, which is kind of crazy because like technically he's supposed to be one of the 7 dwarfs, ends up trying to rape her. So that's pretty wild. So, I guess this dwarf is rapey. You got sneezy, sleepy, rapey, and you got her like love interest, which is another huge twist on this, right? Like, imagine Snow White fucking one of the 7 dwarfs. The guy from Tommy from Shawshank Redemption ends up being her like love interest. This is kind of reminiscent a bit of the kind of spin on the Hobbit movies when they introduced Tariel and had her have kind of like a little bit of a love triangle with one of the dwarves and Legolas. So it just kind of reminded me of that here a bit. But it was just unexpected because he's a dwarf, right? Like he's a regular human, but like the story as is, the writers had to go into it and were like, well, what if we actually made him like a full grown man and she wanted to fuck him like that? But I like this. I like it. Like I like the spin on that. Fine with me. And then um, they go and they're working in the mines, and she does her Saruman trick. It's Saruman, he's trying to bring down the mountain. He like brings down the mines, and they call it a mine. I'm just gonna do Lord of the Rings, Middle Earth quotes and discussion from here on out. I probably should, since it's my favorite films and I never get to talk about them on here, although I have had people request me do them, but that wouldn't fit the channel in the slightest, now would it? It is my channel, but trust me, they'd get no views, and I'd have to put an insane amount of work into those. Those videos would be as long as the films themselves, so no fucking way. I just love them, understand that, and every single thing about them is perfect to me. So that's all it would be. It would just be like, this scene is perfect, this moment's perfect, this character is perfect, this acting is perfect, this part of the score is perfect. That's all I'd be saying the whole time. Here's all my favorite scenes. Here's all the lines that I quote all the time. So there you go. There's basically it in a nutshell. And then yeah, one of the dwarves ends up dying. The way she uses her magic is she like puts a bird in an hourglass and flips it upside down, and the sand that runs down kind of mirrors the crumbling of the mine on them, which is really sad because the bird, I'm sure, ends up suffocating in the sand, and then it ends up killing one of her dwarves. So that was cool and sad. And then she so then Sigourney Weaver ends up kind of seducing the prince of Snow White in here, the guy she was supposed to marry, the one she was wearing the inappropriate dress around. I'm doing a lot of quotations, finger quotations right now. If you're not watching, way too many, way too many. But she ends up seducing him. So yeah, I'm liking these spins. I'm liking the more adult take on this. And yeah, he falls for it. She's a very attractive lady. I mean, I can't blame him. She's missing and she's available, and yeah, there you go. So Sigourney Weaver, the evil queen, she ends up like visiting her dead baby. She like has it kind of perched up somewhere, and she like goes and like hangs out with it, visits like the actual corpse of the baby, and is like sitting there with it. Fucking unsettling. Just wow, she's totally fucked in the head. And then yeah, I mean, the dwarves would have been better off kicking her the fuck out, like some of them had suggested early on, especially the rapist. But the dwarves just kind of keep dying around her, and they seem to just be okay with it. The old ugly makeup that they put on Sigourney Weaver here to make her like the evil queen is really good. I really liked that makeup a lot. It was creepy. It was kind of uncanny. She looked like off-putting, and I dug it. And she gives her the apple, and you know, back in this time, an apple is like candy. That's like a serious treat, and she's like so happy to get it from her. And she's like, oh, I know who I'm going to share this with, which is her boyfriend, the dwarf, but she ends up taking a bite of it right before then, which is weird. I guess she was just going to like bite it into it. But apples go pretty bad once you start eating them. They start going brown pretty quickly. But regardless, yeah, this puts her in some comatose state. And they end up burying her in a glass coffin, very true to... Actually, I had read that... Disney was consulted for this and actually gave some input towards this adaptation, which is kind of interesting. I would think they would be like, we'll sue you, or like, no, we're not going to have any involvement or something. But supposedly they gave them input? I don't know. That's what trivia said on IMDb. Who knows if that's accurate. And then, yeah, her boyfriend doesn't want to give up on her. I shouldn't say her boyfriend, her dwarf boyfriend. Her doifend. Jesus Christ. He won't give up, and it's that typical thing where like people try to do the CPR or whatever, and people are like, just let it go, and it's like, what is it gonna hurt? Like, just let him do it. Every time they do that in movies, it always annoys the shit out of me. They're like, they go for like 30 seconds or something, and the person's like, it's like they're gone, just let them go, and then the person's like, no, like, and goes back, and they just keep pulling at him, and they're like, and they have to push him away and be like, no, let me try, and they're like, stop. They like can't have. It's like, what the fuck cares? Let him go on her for fucking 10 minutes if he has to. Like, what difference is it gonna make? Like, let him try. Like, and then always, every time in a movie, for the most part, I would say 99% of the time, if someone starts CPR, that's not what happens in this movie. There's not CPR. He just kind of like pulls her out and just keeps saying breathe, which I thought he was going to kiss her, but he doesn't. He just says breathe, which is really weird. You would think he would just be like hitting her on the back or something, because she ends up coughing up the apple piece, which that's all that was, I guess. And all he had to do is talk into her ear and say breathe. That's what broke the curse. I thought he would kiss her, and then maybe like if he blew some air in her mouth while kissing her, it would like, I don't know. He like doesn't know he's doing CPR. He just thinks he's kissing her. You know, I don't know. Whatever. He just says breathe. Anyway, what I was saying is that anytime in a movie, 99% of the time, if someone tries to do CPR on somebody, and then people are like, it's over, she's dead, it's gone. Almost every time someone goes to do CPR on someone, it doesn't work the first time. And then they like stop, and everyone's like, they're gone. Oh my God. And they start crying. And then they go back, and then everyone's like, stop, let it go. And they won't let it go. And then the person, like, everybody has to like eat their fucking words because, you know, or her apple bite, whatever. And yeah, and then they come back to life. This happens anytime they go back for the second time. You know, 99% of the time, they're going to get up. They're going to live. Right? So it is just so many tropes in films. There's so many tropes. And I know what they're there for. Like, I understand their purpose. They're there to add this level of tension and stress and excitement and what. Like, I get their purpose, but how many times can a movie do the same fucking shit? I would never write that stuff into my script. I just wouldn't do it. I refuse. But I've seen so many movies now. That's probably why I don't write scripts anymore, because I'm like, I've seen it all. 100,000 fucking times each. So I don't know what to write. I just feel like I can't be even remotely original. And it feels like very few people even try. Mostly because, actually, probably that's not true. A lot of people probably try to be original, but studios are like, get the fuck out of here with this weird, unique thing. We want known IP. We want safe films. This is the shit people show up for. Every time we take a risk, no one shows up. Everyone bitches that they want something new, but they never show up at the theater. So who do they got to blame but themselves? Nobody. And then, yeah, I mean, the dwarf ends up giving her back to the prince, even though he saves her. And, you know, cool guy for that and all, but it's like, nah, she should have just stayed with him. But regardless, the evil queen ends up hanging the dad upside down, played by Sam Neill, as I had said. So this actually kind of reminded me of Event Horizon, which would have came out 1997. Isn't that when Event Horizon came out? Wouldn't this be the same year? 97? Is that right? When did Event Horizon come out? I want to say it's 97. Well, whatever it was. It's around this time, so it just reminded me of that anyway. And then yeah, the evil queen ends up like cutting her face, and so she's like, there you go, like, you're not perfect anymore. There's an obsession with her and her looks and her beauty, I guess, but it's not really fully on display here. I also think there's some good stuff with the dwarves, but you know, they try to give personality and some story to a couple of them, but they just don't take enough time with each one of them individually to give like a distinct separation of each character. Like, that's one thing the Hobbit films do very well, is they give a very specific identity to every one of the 13 dwarves. which is really, really cool. I can tell you everything about every single one of them because they're so distinct to me in my mind. But then again, I mean, this is no Peter Jackson film. I know a lot of people hate the Hobbit movies. I think they're fucking insane. Those movies rule. But regardless, anyway. And then yeah, she ends up stabbing her in the mirror, which she doesn't really even try to attack her much at all. She just stabs the mirror. It's not like she tries to stab her. So I found it odd that she just went straight to stabbing the mirror. This is what I'm talking about. There's just so many like moments where I'm like, why would they do that? Like, why isn't there more to this? Or like, why? What made her think of that in the moment? Like, she sees it and she remembers from when the woman was killed in front of her for looking in the mirror. So maybe she's kind of always had it in her mind. And I don't know. There's just not enough time with the mirror. There's no like mirror, mirror on the wall type of stuff. There's like a little bit of it, but it's just I don't know. There just could have been a little more to each one of these things in here. I think there's a lot of really cool ideas. I like a lot of how it is. And the movie has a high budget. I was actually pretty surprised when I saw the budget for this. I always thought this was like a straight to DV or straight to VHS kind of movie that didn't really have a lot of money put into it, but it actually had quite a budget from what I saw, unless I'm completely misremembering, but I don't think I am. Anyway, and yeah, I mean, she ends up finding her dad outside, so he seems to be okay, and her boyfriend shows up, her dwarf boyfriend, and her other boyfriend, but he lets her be, and it starts snowing for obvious reasons, and that's pretty much it. I mean, it's cool. It's cool. It's got its issues, but overall, I dug it. So I'm glad to have revisited it. Um, had they just put a little more thought into a couple things, I think that this would be more revered and less forgotten. But as it sits right now, I don't think it deserves to fall into obscurity or anything. But it's not like some amazing gem that needs to be uncovered. I just think that it's absolutely worth a watch. I think it's worth your time if this sounds like it's something cool to you, that you want to kind of see the style of it and whatnot. It also kind of has the style is interesting. I just it kind of feels cheap in a way for the kind of budget it has. Like I feel like this should feel more grand. I feel like this should feel more like a big feature film. And sometimes it kind of it feels made for TV. It almost feels like, speaking of Sam Neill, it almost feels like his Merlin TV show at times. So I don't know why that is. I don't know if that's like amateur directing or what, but unless I'm completely mistaken about the budget and the intention, like this was in theaters, right? It's not bad. It still has a like a film quality to it, but it has a made for TV quality to it at times as well. So I don't know. There's just some pieces that are missing for this one for me. Am I crazy? What do you guys think? Other than that, I'll see you in the comments, and that's that. All right, adios.